Welcome. You're listening to Parts and Charts, the IFS and Astrology Podcast. I'm Chelsea Owens, an artist and licensed marriage and family therapist specializing in internal family systems, and one of my spiritual gifts is the ability to balance depth and fun.
And I'm KP Kaszabowski, a poet, filmmaker, and astrologer who seeks pathways to fully loving myself and others, and the language for what is happening underneath the surface.
Together, we explore how inner parts and planetary archetypes speak to one another. Whether you're new to IFS or astrology or deep in your own integration practice, we're glad you're here.
Ding, 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 ding. Woo, 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 woo.
Yeah,
and we're back.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. This is how
Hello.
we're beginning the episode. We are definitely beginning the episode like that. Today, we're focusing on self energy in internal family systems modality, big S self energy, which part of our hypothesis of connecting IFS with astrology is that self energy as a concept is really related to sun energy in astrology, like frameworks of thinking. But for this episode, we're really focusing on explaining and talking through the intricate valleys and hills of self energy. So we will be sitting with our cute little teacups, our energetic teacups, and listening to Chelsea talk about this, our resident IFS therapist.
Beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have my matcha. It's iced, not in a teacup.
I
And
have my, oh, you can't see it, my water that looks like
oh, that's really
urine
cool.
because
Yeah.
there's lime salt in it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it just blended with your background, so it looks like you're drinking
It's
the
the
clouds.
clouds.
Typical, right? I wish I had a background as cool as yours today. I wish I could have a sun background for what we're talking about, but as we know, backgrounds do not work on my computer with this light.
There's too much
But
light.
there's too much light. Um, and what I was the analogy that I love to make about self, and this is like a lot of people in IFS use this, um, self is like the sun, and the sun is always there, as we know, and yet sometimes we can't see it. Sometimes, well, oftentimes where I live, there's clouds, there's fog, um, but behind it all, we know that the sun is still there in the middle of the day. We know that it's there. And yeah, so just like self is always there. It's always inside you. It's an essence or an energy that, in my opinion, maybe some other people would agree that it can't be destroyed. It's always going to be there. Even though parts come in like clouds and kind of, can cloud it up so that you can't see self. And, often when people come to therapy, um, yeah, they're pretty partsy. There's a lot of parts up. And that's kind of who's interacting with me. Or not even just in therapy, but like here, even in your daily interactions. So you're meeting anybody, we're probably meeting their parts first. And that's okay. It's not a negative thing. We can't walk around in self all the time. Like we really do need parts to get some things done, right? Um, But self is this essence, is this quality that you're born with that's always with you, even if you can't see it sometimes. So that's kind of the goal of what we do in IFS is to cultivate and remember and feel into self energy. The more access to self, the better. So that you can be this container, this parent, this supporter of, this leader of your whole system, of all your parts, getting all your parts to trust self energy. Um, Easier said than done, but that is the
Right.
goal. And self exists in everybody. It's considered a particle and a wave. I think Dick talks about that sometimes.
Interesting.
Yeah, particle and a wave, so it's a noun and a verb. It's boundaryless, and it's like active and compassionate. In IFS, we have all these C qualities, C words, that try to define what self is, and I think it's helpful to have that kind of framework when teaching because, um, just trying to define self does feel ineffable. It's like it's this quality, it's this energy, this essence. I'm using all kind of the same words here, but it I don't think we have the language to define what it is. And
Mhm.
it can feel so much differently for every person. Like, you know, when you're in it, when you're in it, you know what it feels like when you're feeling it, which sure, that doesn't really help explain what it is. And and if you felt it, like you'll know what I'm talking about. The C qualities of calmness, curiosity, compassion, confidence, courage, clarity, connectedness, and creativity. So we have these nice qualities that probably everyone can relate to at some point. Surely you've probably felt some of those at some point in life. And it's not just that to me. It's something much bigger. But having that framework kind of helps to ground it in something so people can have a little bit of an understanding of what we're talking about here. And all the spiritual traditions have had different words for this, right? Like God or source,
Yeah.
um, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone has a word for it. So it's both, something that's an energy within us that remembers or knows that we're connected to everybody and everything. And and yeah, it's within us and it's like outside of us. And it's everything to me, to put it
Yeah.
really simply. Yeah.
It's making me think of like kind of the negation maybe of self energy is like I lost myself in that relationship or I didn't feel like myself at that job. Um, Sometimes it's easier to know when you're not in self
Mm.
than describing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then like we also talk often about like I feel like I can be myself with you.
Mm-hmm.
And like yeah, that's helpful for me to think about self energy because there are certain people I can be myself around.
Yeah.
And there's certain parts of myself I can be myself around as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I I get the sense that when people are saying that, like it's very like, yeah, colloquial term, right? People
Yeah.
kind of throw that around. And I kind of get the sense that when people are using that term, they're really talking about a part.
Yeah.
Parts. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because if I truly feel like I am in self or I can be self around, I feel like I can be self around a lot of people. Because
Yeah.
when you're truly, truly, truly in self energy, it's easy, it's effortless. Like there isn't something that's like, oh, like this doesn't feel safe. I can't be around this person. Like, it you can take care of whatever doesn't feel good, or you can take care of anything that's coming up for you.
Yeah.
Um, there's just ease. There's like just that sense of feeling connected to everything and everyone. And yeah, so I guess for me, when I hear people say like I wasn't being myself or I wasn't, et cetera, et cetera, it feels like it's coming from a part when that is coming up. Like a part doesn't feel safe or a part doesn't feel
Yeah.
like they could have been around that person or um, they're referring to, yeah, just a part that they were noticing in that situation. What do you
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ask what I thought?
think? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it like usually that sounds like there needs to be something listened to.
Yeah.
Or that part has already been listened to the point where the person can say that sentence, like, I didn't feel like I could be myself. In my experience, like, it takes me a few months to realize, oh, this is not a good situation for me. I can't be myself, or I can't, it doesn't feel right for me. But it usually takes time to find the language.
In those situations, and I feel like being self-led is having the ability to make those choices when
Yeah.
you know you're discerning if a situation is actually if it's okay for your parts to be there or not. Like I've certainly had moments where yeah, there's maybe a family member or somebody who's quite triggering and even if you've done a lot of work on that relationship or energetically, with that person, it still may not be okay for a part or parts of you to be in relationship with them or be around them. Um, and it's okay to discern and make that choice, right? Like, okay, like you don't have to come to this interaction
Yeah.
with this person that doesn't respect you, right? Like it's not safe and I recognize that. And you can take care of that, right? It's like okay for um yeah, for your parts to have a say in what interactions they want to be in and to be able to take care of that, to stand up for them when there's something that, yeah, is really feeling unsafe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is making me curious
Yes.
about, are there, so you have like an event coming up. Can you, with certainty, like channel your self energy? What does that look like? Is it possible?
Ooh. Like you have something you're going to,
Yeah.
and and maybe you're noticing some parts feeling nervous about it. Is that what you mean? And like maybe there's a
Yeah.
desire to, I don't know, have something happen or not happen in that scenario.
Yeah, maybe it's helpful to be specific. So, like in imagination land, let's say there's like 300 people at this place, and you are asked to like get up on stage and introduce someone.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
let's say in this scenario, not personal at all, um, like public speaking is really difficult because of maybe self-judgment or what other energy can get in the way. Um, how can someone in that situation prepare their self to show up versus maybe like a really anxious part of themselves?
Yeah. Oh, good scenario. I think that happens pretty frequently, right? Or at least
Yeah.
like I can relate to a lot of that for sure. And well, I think it's important, if you've done work with some of those parts, right, um to be able to recognize them as parts first, right? To recognize like, okay, what's showing up here? What is this? What's going on? What's the dynamic? Who's doing what? So having first the clarity of like what we're working with here, recognizing what's showing up, if it's showing up as a part, to just be able to see that and how you notice it's there, right? How you notice it showing up in a scenario where maybe you have to give a speech. And when you get those, if you're actually like on stage, right? I notice this sometimes when I'm, doing various trainings or whatever, have to give a speech. I can sense, like I get sensations of where these parts are located, maybe in my heart space or my stomach. Maybe it's harder to eat that day. Um, feels like knots. So like noticing those sensations. Um, and in the moment, noticing what's coming up and being able to, kind of let that part know, like, okay, I see you, I hear you, I know you're here. And what we call unblending is this process of kind of acknowledging a part, maybe if the part's feeling pretty blended or pretty close to you in the moment, to be able to acknowledge and kind of separate or just get a little perspective on the part in the moment so that you get a little bit of space from it. So it's not
Yeah.
completely like crowding you. It's not completely taking over or doing all the speaking in that moment. So to be able to unblend in a moment, um, yeah, when you're noticing it and just letting the part know, even quickly, a second, right? Like, okay, I see you, I hear you, I'll come back to you. You don't like you're safe now. You don't have to take over right now. Like, I got this. And just having that like little moment of separation, yeah, it can be helpful. But I do think that it's important to have the connections and do some amount of work with any parts that are coming up around certain scenarios before you're actually in it, right? Before you're actually in the scenario.
Yeah.
Um,
Because this is making me think of like if you weren't in relationship and acknowledging the parts coming up that need attention, I think, at least in my system, it would look like the performer part would override, and it wouldn't necessarily be self. It would
yeah,
be the performer part of me that wants to exude
yeah,
courage, confidence. What are the
yeah,
other words you used?
yeah,
Creativity.
yeah,
Like I would be channeling the self similar energy, but with a part rather than letting self be effortless, which
mhm.
honestly, I don't think I've ever experienced when I'm on stage, is an effortless self, you know?
Well, maybe you don't have to on stage, you
Yeah,
know. If you're acting and performing, or if you're just giving a speech, you're probably kind of performing, right?
yeah, yeah,
And that's okay, right? I feel like it's okay if there's a part that's going to step in and do the thing for you,
yeah,
right? That's like, okay, we have to say this whole speech. We got to hit all these points. We don't want to forget it. We want to have a good delivery. We want to have energy. Like, that's okay.
yeah, yeah.
And and to remind you that all of the parts, like parts have their own self energy. So like there is self energy
Oh,
parts too. So like they have that capability to tap into that as well. And
really?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
every part has self energy?
yeah. And not to complicate things even further, but parts can also have parts.
Oh my God, oh my
And
God, oh
on
my
and on you
God.
go. It's like fractals, but
Oh my
parts
God, oh my God, oh my God.
good. Subparts. Yeah. So parts can tap into self energy, like that exists within them as well. Because like all of these, C words like that, parts can have that too, right? And when they become unburdened, when they release their burdens, they get freed up to do all these other things, and they can call in all these other qualities that they once had or would like to have, right? All these other qualities, like they could be all of these, beautiful C words or all these other words. Um,
Interesting.
yeah. Yeah.
So
So
then,
like
oh,
it is, yeah, like going back to your scenario, like it it's okay if there's parts that kind of their action or their purpose in your system is to, deliver the speech or the dialogue or whatever it is. Um, it's okay for that to happen. And I think there's also because self is such a like praised quality or essence. I think there's also this understanding that we like that's what we're striving for, and I kind of said that, but like that's what you should always be feeling, right? Or
right.
that's like the gold standard. Um and like self is great and parts are like not great, or I don't think it's a hierarchy like that. Like we need parts to do things and do like function in our daily lives,
Yeah.
and that's totally okay. And also I've been in groups and in trainings with facilitators and trainers and therapists who are absolutely in self, and you can feel it. You can for sure feel a difference when there's a lot of self energy present,
Hmm.
and it just feels like you can relax, like you can just your system is just like, yeah, it feels okay to be here, and like I trust this person because they trust themselves and they
Yeah.
know their own system so well that like I feel like I can really be here, and that it feels so somatic to me. And I've really noticed a difference. Not that one is better than the other, but it's something that I really do feel is quite noticeable when there's leaders who are so aware of themselves and their own energy, their own parts, and their own self, and how they're impacting the group and how their parts are impacting the group. And that is just like
Yeah.
huge difference. Yeah.
When do you have like a specific moment where you knew you were in self energy yourself?
Yeah, there's definitely ways that I can tell. Um, I mean, when I'm like doing IFS as a client, there's been a lot of, I mean, that of course feels easier for me than like just kind of going about my daily life.
Yeah.
But um for me, it definitely feels like uh very sensational and very like embodied, um, which feels really hard to put into words.
Yeah.
Like I feel this and I feel that, but for listeners who are like, what does it feel like, and how do you know? Again, like you just know, and specifically when you're working with parts and you're noticing yourself feeling different feelings, or you notice parts coming up when you feel just like the our favorite word, equanimity. Equanimity, when you feel just like curious and open to all of them,
Yeah.
like that's to me when like, oh, like yeah, I'm just completely open and compassionate and feeling understanding of each and every one of these parts of me that's coming forward, no matter what they're saying or doing. And I'm just like, I'm listening, and I'm here for them. Like it feels so somatic to me.
Is
And
that
I
true
clearly,
for all?
I don't know. I haven't taken a poll, but I would be curious to find out if
Yeah.
that, because everyone's so different. And I notice it with clients when, like, I hear their voice change. I feel their body movement and posture change. Like I sense I like, especially when I'm in person with them, but it can be on the computer too. I just I can feel it. I'm like, oh, okay, they feel self right now.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, it's still so nebulous. Right? Does it feel confusing?
No,
Or
it
sometimes.
feels really, it makes a lot of sense to me. It makes a lot of sense to me as well that every part has its own self energy. Although I was surprised to hear that. Like, yeah, because there's like agency,
Yeah.
there's like free will
Yeah.
energy. Um, and if I'm going to relate that to like another way of thinking about it is like being in self energy means like you have the ability to choose how you want to act or what you're going to say, and it's less like
Mhm.
you're being directed by another part of yourself, which I think you said. So you said the word self-led. I'm curious what that looks like in the IFS modality, because I know that's like a pretty big term.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. And to me, it feels like just really knowing your system and being able to speak from a place of knowing your system.
Yeah,
Right. And so it's to me just self-awareness and parts awareness, and being able to speak for your parts, not from them.
yeah,
Right. So you can definitely feel when someone's speaking from their parts. Um, and that's, yeah, having just a bit of distance, a bit of perspective really like brings things, can bring the intensity down, let's say.
yeah,
Um, to be able to just calmly speak for your parts to other people, especially in a relationship. Uh, a part of me felt this, a part of me felt that. Um, and you have a little bit of distance from the emotion of it. And especially when, discussing with another person or having maybe a heated conversation, like that can really make a difference in how that goes. And and it kind of takes uh what's the word I was going to use? When you're speaking for your parts, to me it feels a little less vulnerable. Like it's when you're, maybe talking about something that could be kind of vulnerable. To have even just that a little bit of distance. You're not using an I statement. You're not like, I blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, it's you. Like all of this is you.
Yeah.
But to be able to say a part of me liked that or didn't like that. It's like it's not all of you that didn't like this thing or had this feeling. It was just this part. And even just having a that bit of like distance and perspective helps you have more, compassion for understanding for your own system and maybe helps another person to understand like, yeah, like we're not totalizing you as like you only feel this way. Like
Yeah.
that's one little part of you. That's one aspect. There's so much more there. And it helps to humanize a little bit more, I think.
Yeah.
So to be able to speak for your parts, not from them, um, that's a part of being self-led. And um, what else? Yeah.
And you said earlier that Dick Schwartz talks about the self being the particle and the wave.
Mhm.
Is that kind of like where you would relate what you were just talking about, how like you're speaking for the whole and also for the one or for the self kind of energy?
Yeah.
It's like a Zen koan. It doesn't make
Mhm.
sense, but it does.
Exactly. I mean, we're all just waves and particles, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this body, whatever's inside of it, right? It's all just waves and particles. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit at the beginning before recording that this would be mostly about IFS, if not all about IFS self energy. But like my brain is lighting up and seeing a lot of connections to astrology and how we talk about our sun signs as being like, oh, I'm a Libra. And then you don't use any other words. Like I'm a Libra sun and I'm like have a lot of other parts, placements,
Yeah.
and how like the sun sign as the self describes so much of us, but it's only kind of the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to think of it, connect it like that. Um,
And the sun is really the essence of you.
yeah, it's so many things that we can, so many concepts, but it's like our freedom of choice, our free will, our rational mind, our reality, our point of view, our ego. Um, a lot of the time I talk about our sun sign is what gives us vitality,
Yeah.
or like our most persistent source of light or awareness or attention and focus. But that I think it seems really similar to how you're talking about self energy, like saying that our sun sign is our vitality is like just the tip of the iceberg. And it's not fully encompassing the whole concept, but it does a good job of starting. And I think
Hmm.
that's what you're doing like a really great job of describing self energy as like it's this and it's this and it's this and it's everything, but it's not everything, you know?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
just how like our personality, our perspective, our reality isn't everything, but it
Yeah.
is our everything.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so that's how I'm relating it to astrology in my head right now. So I thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah. I mean, if
Because
we
yeah,
wanted to even dive into soul and spirit
yeah,
and mind and body, uh, the soul to me is our unique imprint, right? It's
yeah,
like it's how we use spirit. Spirit's the thing that's always around us. So it's like I feel like self is kind of is both spirit and soul, right? Because it's there is this like oneness, right? This energy, this essence,
Yeah.
these waves that we're all tapping into, I think.
Yeah.
Spirit. And we're, soul is um, using that and also directing that in its own unique way of like
Yeah.
what taking whatever we are and expressing it in the world. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, to me, self feels like both tapping in. I feel like I'm doing this, tapping into
Yeah.
everything, and also like a unique expression or my own expression, right? Uh,
Yeah.
which for sun sign, yeah. So to me, that also feels like okay, sun signs like it it's tapping into this like oneness of like what we're all connected to, right? And also the more specific or unique expression within that person's chart, but not just I don't know the sun energy or what a Libra means, but how that person's specifically expressing Libra.
Yeah. So I see the word animating, like the animating principle when talking about the sun sign like that. That feels connected to what you're talking about with spirit and soul. Like soul is like the energetic expression and then spirit is the animating
Yeah,
force.
exactly.
And you need both in order for a being to
Mhm.
exist or to live.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the sun. Like so I feel like when talking about someone's sun sign, you could spend days discussing it because it's so crucial. Crucial is an intense word. Essential to someone's life because it's the what gives us life, our
Mhm.
sun energy.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, going from here though, like, what do you think would be something we can illustrate self energy with? Yeah, for our listeners.
As far as like helping them figure out or feel what it is.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, well, I think, like however you notice some of these C words, right? Times when you felt like the calm, curiosity, connected, all of those things. So feeling into times when you felt that.
yeah,
And I know that those are like pretty, universal qualities. It's like, of course I felt, curiosity today.
yeah,
But yeah, really feeling into a time when maybe it was maybe you were being a little challenged and it was a struggle to feel into one of those qualities, but you were able to, right?
yeah,
Maybe times were a little dark and you're moving through some heavy stuff, but you felt one of those qualities, right? Or you're with a challenging person and somehow you were able to tap into one of these qualities for yourself. So reflecting on those and seeing where that lands in your body, right? Like, um, or even how do you connect to source energy, right? If we're gonna go a little bit more the spiritual route and the less like intellectual heady route, this is so embodied.
yeah,
Like, yeah, we try to explain it with language, and I just feel like we don't have enough language for this. So feeling into it, like really feeling into it. What do you notice when you're connecting with spirit or source or like
yeah.
high energy, right? Where do you notice that in your body? And it's not something you can just like think your way into,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. And how do you know when you are and when you are not?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
it's kind of
really
like
good
taking,
prompt.
making that a muscle memory, right? Taking a snapshot of that when you
Yeah.
feel that, right? So you can remember it, so you can get back there.
Yeah.
And like over time, you just keep, remembering that, and it feels a lot easier to access.
Yeah, so this makes me think of ritual.
Oh,
Like it's not every time you do a ritual that you'll feel connected to yourself or to source, right? But
mhm.
the more often you do that ritual, the more often there's a chance you will. And
Mhm.
then eventually that kind of devotion or dedication energy turns into like, oh, every time I'm in this energy. Yeah. So that this is a really good prompt for me specifically as someone who like seeks ritual and devotion to my at least my creative practices. Like that's really the only way that it works for me is if I show up at the same time or in
Yeah.
the same way, not usually the same time, but with my writing, it's like I know it will happen because I am there. I'm there
Mhm.
for it.
Mhm.
Um, and this is just making me think of like how I'm not much of a Bible scholar, people, but I believe in the Bible. At least in liturgy, there's this phrase of like, be still and know that I am God.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's a great meditation because it's easy to memorize, especially as a kid. Like, be still and know that I am God.
Mhm.
Um, and like that concept that God energy, source energy is self energy.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too much conflation for IFS.
No, I think it
Maybe.
totally is. I mean,
Yeah.
I would go there.
Yeah.
That's because yeah, I relate to the sense like I am God,
Yeah.
I am source. Because
Yeah.
because that energy is everything. Like there's nothing outside of that energy, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we all are. Yeah.
Would you say these three C's are also like relatable to every like spiritual tradition on the planet?
The eight C's. Maybe.
Did I say three C's? Whoops.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
Eight C's.
Holy Spirit. I you know, probably
Yeah.
I would need a little bit more time to research every religious tradition and find
Right.
out. But I mean, I'm sure, right? Because everything's connected. We're all kind of saying the same thing with different words, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's helpful for me to make that connection because
Yeah.
like I before in the earlier part of this call or this recording,
Mhm.
I was like, okay, when am I self when I'm talking to my friend, or when am I self when I'm like in my artist mode? But like even just saying artist mode sounds like I'm stepping into a part, right? Like even the language I'm using is like it's
Yeah.
parts work.
Yeah.
Um, but when I think about my experience with God or in spiritual situations in my
Mhm.
daily life, like that is self energy for me, and then I can better access it.
Mhm.
Um, Going from there, I just wanted to point out like the sun energy in astrology is often talked about like God's energy.
Oh, that makes
Um, or like, so the animating principle is one way, but it's like, what facet of God, which is like all of us, are you expressing in this lifetime? And that's your sun energy. So it's
Ooh.
like, because you are a being, you are a specific definitive expression,
Mhm.
but you are also like on that, the analogy of like the diamond, we're all facets on this huge diamond together. And if we're saying we are all one, we are all God, we are God, all of us. Yeah, like we're each this one facet. So that's how I view the sun
Oh,
side
beautiful.
often, which like takes me a little bit further away from how the sun signs are talked about in like modern astrology, which is like, oh, this is how you act, this is how you are, this is
Mhm.
what you like, this is what you look like, kind of thing.
Mhm.
But then it's also like that is actually what's happening in our life. We look and act this certain way
Mhm.
because God wants to experience all different ways of being in
Ooh.
flesh.
Mm.
That's like maybe too ancient mystic Christian theology, but I really it does help me like make flesh these concepts that can be a little um too fluid for
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
to if I like the purpose of IFS and astrology for me is like greater understanding and love for myself. I want to make it more practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Hmm.
Yeah.
So for my Cancer sun,
Hmm.
what what facet of, I guess, what would, yeah, what could you say to me about my Cancer sun and self energy?
What beautiful
Put you on
expression
the
of God
spot.
are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was thinking about this earlier, like if you're going to just boil it down, because we're talking about like essential energy,
Hmm.
but it's also like so expansive, so we can use so many descriptors.
Hmm.
But like Cancer Sun is like care,
Hmm.
love, like
Hmm.
body embodied love and care. Um, if we want to get like super literal, sometimes like Cancer is called the mother's sign. So like what does a mother do? A
Hmm.
mother shows a being how to be.
Ooh,
And that's like so beautiful.
yeah.
Like shepherding a younger person or another person into their own becoming
Yeah.
is mother energy.
Oh, that
That's
feels like
Cancer
so,
energy.
yeah. Hmm.
And like Cancer energy to me is like highly creative. So there's this also energy of like making oneself.
Hmm.
So like throughout your whole lifetime, you're like molding and shaping and making your life beautiful and expressive and true. Yeah, Cancer Sun energy, the expression of God is like we have this life to be in our bodies and to touch one another. Um, and I could say that about every sun sign, actually. Like I truly believe that like every sun sign is an expression of like how we can touch each other. But
Mm,
Cancer energy is a little bit more emotional or physical than other archetypes.
yeah, we touchy.
Yeah, cuddly. Yeah, I have a Cancer sun mother who I very much love. Um, so I have a lot of experience witnessing someone throughout her lifetime, like not her whole lifetime, obviously. Um, and like I her verb is care, you know?
Yeah. Hmm.
I see that for you too.
Mm.
If we're talking about verbs, like verb is probably a good way to approach sun sign energy more so than any other placement in the chart. It's like your sun really is like how you do life.
Really?
Yeah. Animating. It's the animating principle.
Very cool. Okay. I
Yeah.
wish we could cover all of them. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot off the cuff, but like,
Yeah.
if quickly, like,
Oh,
what's your
there's this.
association with each sign if you had to say one word as a gift?
Yeah. There's this really beautiful poem. I mean, it's not, it's like very simple. It's like, I am. And I'm not going to remember it all. So I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
And I forgot who wrote it, but I'm sure it was an astrologer. But Aries energy is I am. Like
Oh.
they exist. Like it's incredible that they exist, that kind of energy.
Mm.
Taurus is oh, yeah, I can't remember. Taurus is
Like to stay home. Sorry.
what?
Like to stay home. Just kidding.
Likes to yeah, they're big cuddlers because they're the body sign. Like
Yeah.
you begin, you exist, that's Aries, and then when it's Taurus, it's like, okay, now you have a body, what are you gonna do with it?
Mm.
Gemini is I know, I believe is the verb.
Mm.
Cancer is I
Feel?
feel, it is I feel. Leo is I show
Oh, of
or something
course.
like that. Or I love. There's something it's like if you think about Leo energy, it's like
Mhm.
warmth and joy and expression.
Mhm.
Virgo is ooh,
Organize?
I organize, I make sense.
Ooh.
I consider maybe is the
Mhm.
verb. That's not in the poem. Libra is I relate. Yeah, and that's my son. Like I definitely feel like a lot of my verb in this lifetime is to relate, to connect. Um, Scorpio is I sizzle. I don't know. What's Scorpio? I
We love
sizzle.
Scorpio.
I love Scorpio energy.
Oh, what is it?
What's a good verb for Scorpio?
Hmm.
I purify, I think is one someone uses that a
Ooh.
lot, which is like, yeah.
I get
Scorpio's
that.
like here to make sure we're doing things to the bone in the
Mhm.
right way. Just
Mm.
hot. Um, Sagittarius is probably like I expand or I wonder.
Mm.
Capricorn is I build. Or
Oh,
I don't necessarily like. I think it's because I live in
oh,
a capitalistic society, but yeah,
ew.
I use is pretty common.
Mm,
Aquarius is I change maybe, or I disrupt.
mm,
I reconsider, I rethink. And then Pisces is I love,
mm,
I create maybe. I forget
mm,
what the verb is, but Pisces
mm,
energy is the one who like just feels everyone and integrates, dissolves, enjoys.
mhm.
Yeah,
That's
the verbs of the zodiac signs.
mm, yeah.
I like I sizzle for Scorpio.
I do too.
Yeah.
A sizzle. Mm. And yeah, this feels like a very important foundational um, aspect of what we're talking about,
Yeah.
what we're, our modalities. And should
Well,
we also mention that for paid subscribers that we will have
yeah.
bonus features and a meditation or something like a meditation to feel into what self energy is.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really helpful. Like Chelsea said earlier, it's like self energy is so embodied. To like it's more getting you into the experience of it instead of talking about it in the head sphere, which I think will be really nice. So if you're a paid subscriber, that will be coming to your inbox really soon.
Really soon.
Chelsea's beautiful voice.
My meditation voice. Sorry.
Take a seat. Um,
Close
close your
your
eyes if you want.
kidding. It's really fun.
Yeah, she's really good at it. That
Okay,
sounded
well,
sarcastic. It's not.
this was so fun. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Have a good day,
Playing.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Till next time, may all of you feel a part of the family.